Hi everybody, this is Toffee bringing you an updated version of my Fire Emblem 8 100% growth full recruitment LTCs. I will cover both Eirika and Ephraim, but this segment of the run is common to both of them. This project happened thanks to the contributions in the last few years from Fidel Wars, Jumpy23, and Alternatives, which combined to produce a new turn save in both routes. We start off with Eirika and Seth. Eirika is the lord of the early game and Eirika route. She definitely has to be trained for her own route, and there is enough uncontested EXP in the early game that Ephraim route doesn't mind training her as well. She comes with a PRF Rapier that lets her crit anything she needs to for the entire run, and grants boosted weapon EXP. Prologue is a kill boss where the boss only moves after his lackeys are killed, so we need to have Eirika and Seth kill them on player phase. Seth is our first 8 move unit, though he will be outpaced by our growth units eventually. Seth will kill the boss, and that'll be Prologue in 1 turn. Chapter 1 is a siege map, though it's simple enough that we can just have Seth carry Eirika to the throne. We immediately suspend and restart the chapter in order to rig both fighters that attack Seth on turn 1 to not be one-shot by him with the steel sword. On turn 2, we get 2 new units, Gilliam and Franz. Gilliam is an armor knight who will become irrelevant after chapter 4, but Franz is an important growth unit. He needs to promote by chapter 8 and will be an important combat unit all the way until the end of the mid-game. Here he will chip down the soldier to low HP, which will cause him to become aggressive and attack him on the upcoming enemy phase. We had Seth weaken the 2 fighters so that they could be fed to Franz. The soldier to the left of Seth goes for Eirika, and we want her to dodge and crit kill him to ensure that the other soldier will go for Franz. Eirika does not crit the bottom fighter so that he can be fed to Franz. The key problem during the early game of FE8 is funneling as much EXP as we can into our growth units, partly due to a special mode coefficient that increases the EXP for killing weaker enemies until the end of chapter 8. This is also why Seth will actually gain a surprising amount of EXP given his level during the early game. I had Seth equip the sword on this enemy phase to get a round of chip EXP against the boss. We'll clean up, and Eirika will cease to complete chapter 1 in 3 turns. At the end of the chapter we get 5000 gold and 2 new units, though I'll talk about them in the next chapter. It's rigging time! Chapter 2 gives us the ability to reorganize inventories and also access to the world map, though we can't do anything on the map yet. We get 2 new units, Vanessa the Pegasus Knight and Moldra the Priest. Vanessa is our first flyer and as such will be a very important unit on both routes. She doesn't have a great start and yet she must immediately be the lead combat unit in chapter 2. It will be a while before she can get her promotion item since we must skip the first Elysian Whip, but she does want to build big stats and hence is an important EXP target. Moldra the Priest is our first staffer, joining with C rank and staves, and is another important unit. He hits A rank to use the warp staff in the late game comfortably, though given his slow EXP gain he cannot handle the biggest warps of the run. We wanted to reach at least level 9 by chapter 16 of Eirika route, and get him to level 13 by chapter 18 of Ephraim route in order to simplify our strategy for that map. With staff users, an ongoing side objective is to keep them busy with staff targets every turn. The English and Japanese versions of FE8 have several minor differences, but Chapter 2 has a significant one for the LTC. In the Japanese version, Vanessa has an extra point of base speed, and this translates to a turn save in Chapter 2. For glitchless full recruitment, this is balanced by Chapter 18 taking a turn longer, so both versions should reach the same final turn count. Chapter 2 is a route map with brigands on peaks to the south. There are a couple of villages to the north that Eirika will visit. Gilliam and Seth got Franz out of the woods on turn 1. The green units to the right are Ross the Journeyman and Garcia the Fighter. Eirika could talk to Ross to recruit him, and similarly Ross could then talk to Garcia to dump the blue paint on him, but we don't need to bother since they auto-join if they stay alive. Garcia does help out as a filler infantryman with good con on a few maps. Ross does not contribute anything unique to a full recruitment LTC, though an incomplete recruitment Ephraim LTC would probably want to train him. We do need Ross to dodge on turn 1 to survive. Ross and Garcia need to handle the fighter and the archer who started on the right side of the map. One nice thing about 100% growths is that level ups produce staff targets. Franz's level up on turn 2 gives him a heal target on turn 3. In the Japanese version, because of her extra point of base speed, Vanessa has 9 attack speed with the Iron Lance. The Brigands can roll 5 speed at the lowest, so you could have had her drop set in range of the left peak Brigand on turn 2 and have Vanessa double crit the remaining 2 with an Iron Lance, with Garcia critting the Archer in order to complete a 2-turn clear. Vanessa's hit rates are very bad in general because of Weapon Triangle and the 40 avoid from peaks, and yet we want her to dodge and land hits, and on the final turn we want her to actually crit. On turn 3, we see a couple of Brigands reinforce in from the left. Gilliam can kill one of them with an epic 12-hit 2-crit Javelin crit, while Seth will enemy face the other one. Vanessa cleans up the 2 remaining Brigands to complete Chapter 2 in 3 turns. You may have noticed an armory that we did visit on the previous map. Never fear, in FE8 we can complete our shopping on the overworld map. The overworld shops are not always the same as the in-map shops, but the differences do not matter to the LTC. We can buy javelins from the armory at Ide, giving all our lance units access to 1-2 range. Chapter 3 is a seas map, and once more, we simply can have Seth carry Eirika to the seas point. We're joined by Nami, the archer. Nami does not matter to the LTC after this map. The first obstacle in our path is a 25 HP wall, which we 2-shot since Seth needs to be charging forward. Nami and Franz do this job, and since we want the spot right in front of the wall, free for later, we attack from 2 range. Nami's rescue dropped out of the way to the north in preparation for next turn. The next obstacle in our path is that Brigand, and Eirika can kill him with a rapier crit. Because of this, she will level up, and this will give Molder a turn 1 heal target. The Brigand drops a door key, and while this game doesn't let you buy them, we don't need to hoard this one for the LTC, and we'll use it to let the Brigand in the bottom treasure room out. Garcia uses his good starting spot to start working on the second wall. We want him to intentionally get damaged on this enemy face for Molder's sake next turn. Seth thankfully does not one-shot the Brigand and doesn't double him due to carrying Eirika, which allows him to help other units' growth. The Green Thief who shows up is Colm. His base stats are not great, but Colm's Thief class has a number of special properties that give him utility through the early game. Nami recruits him by talking to him and then slides into irrelevance. The right room has a ton of enemies, and we want to feed them to our growth units. Colm has a free action on this turn, so I have him attack this Brigand, but it's not really needed. Seth's accuracy with the javelin while weighed down is not the best, but he does manage to chip down 3 enemies in this room to be fed to our growth units. Vanessa is in for a rough enemy phase where we want her to dodge either the archer or the left brigand, and we want her to crit the thief for EXP. To the left, we have a spare turn, so we have Molder be attacked by both the remaining brigands on the map, which gets him 1 EXP per attack. It's not strictly necessary to expose him to danger like this, but on Eirika route, I actually want to get him to level 10 by chapter 16 in order to promote as a flex. And the timeline for that is very strict, requiring us to maximize the number of times he gets attacked along the way. And I think it makes the clears more interesting with that more intense side objective. These 2 weakened brigands are perfect fodder for Franz and Vanessa's EXP bars. Garcia once again contributes a staff target to Molder, and we positioned him in that way so that Molder could stand on the pillar for this upcoming enemy phase. Molder can only afford to take 1 attack, And he already got damaged last turn, so he needs to dodge both attacks this time. Cole has a couple of free actions, so I have him grab two of the chests from the north treasure room. The treasure chests on this map are really nothing special. We rigged Eirika to crit the mercenary for EXP. Money is not particularly important in FE8 LTC. I do get Nami and Colm's free C support. We will save the chest key we get here for chapter 8. Colm causes some AI issues on that map if we try to use him for the job that will end up grabbing a treasure chest there, so the chest key comes in handy. Franz will kill the boss and Eirika will cease to complete chapter 3 in 4 turns. Chapter 4 is another route, so it's back to the intense combat. We finally get a proper preps menu and the ability to bench units. We're joined by a new unit in preps, Artur the Monk. Artur is the first combat magic user of the run and he'll be a very important player. We want to get him to A staves and 24 magic by chapter 16 of both routes. This requires an aggressive training regimen. As a first step, we want to promote him by the start of chapter 8, and it turns out we can just about get him to level 11 by then. Artur will start by covering that Revenant and the 2 Moguls nearby. Every scrap of EXP on him matters, so we get him as much chip EXP as we can on top of the kills we feed him. We also want to ensure that he breaks his first lightning tome at a specific time in chapter 6, so we also care about when exactly he crits the enemies he needs to crit to kill. Franz will eventually ride to the right to cover some enemies who will spawn from there. And Seth will have to cross the river to cover the boss from the bottom right. Vanessa will fly down to cover some enemies in the southwest, and this will leave some enemies in the top left. We will train Eirika there. There is a Revenant there, and Colm will chip him down and get himself damaged. We then rescue drop him to the right so Molter can heal him from a safe spot that can reach Artur next turn. Artur needs to crit both Moguls to kill them. Vanessa crossed the line, which will cause some Revenants to reinforce in the top left. The Revenant in the top left corner normally won't attack immediately, but we will provoke him by having Eirika attack him. Eirika does not cleanly kill the other 3 Revenants, so we have Colm, Gilliam, and Garcia chip them down. We could alternatively have had Colm visit the village to grab an Iron Axe, but it's not exactly something that we're going to lose sleep over. Visiting the village in the bottom left would bring the Anima Mage Lute to the field, but she will auto-join regardless, so instead we have Vanessa get a round of chip in. Lute is not strictly necessary on either route, but she'll be very helpful in chapter 15 of both routes, and also her stat line will make her good for a certain job in Ephraim route chapter 13. Artur swept the initial Moguls. He will walk down and hijack some enemies who would otherwise have attacked Seth. Franz will cover the 3 Bonewalkers who showed up. Artur needs to crit the 2 full HP Revenants. I got Eirika damaged on player phase to ensure that the enemies will attack her and not Colm. I rigged things so that Artur's Lightning Tome would end the map at 21 uses as part of my plan for his first stone. After his second level up, Artur can cleanly one-run the remaining Mogul. I'll let the rest of the enemy phase play out. That'll conclude Chapter 4 in 2 turns. Chapter 5 is another kill boss. The boss is rather bulky, so we want to suspect rig his stats down so we can kill him comfortably. Additionally, we want to rig certain enemy stats to maximize Artur's EXP. Chapter 5 sees a new unit join in preps, Natasha. Natasha joins at level 1 at D staves, making her strictly inferior to Molder, and she doesn't end up doing anything significant in this LTC. But there are some useful and interesting things that she can do with relatively less investment. In Eirika route, we want an extra C rank staffer for chapter 16, and in my Eirika route run, I trained Lute for this job since I thought I needed her to have C staves by chapter 18 anyway. But that turns out to be unnecessary, so we could have had Natasha be the C staffer for chapter 16, given her head start from the early game. On Ephraim route, there actually is a way to replace a warp use with the rescue use in chapter 20 if we train Natasha specifically to be staves by then, and I'll talk about that strategy when we get to that point. Artur will run up that lane to farm EXP. Lute is currently at level 1 and we will start her training arc with some brigands who will reinforce in. Lute is so light that even Natasha can carry her. There are 4 villages in this chapter, and if we visit all of them we get a guiding ring, which we need to promote Artur at the start of chapter 8. So we send Eirika to visit the bottom right Dragon Shield village. We want France to get hit by the first fighter to ensure that the soldier will then attack her. Molder walked off to the left to bait over a soldier who will harass him for the rest of the map. When I suspend rigged enemy stats, the archer who is above Artur had a little too much bulk for Artur to cleanly one-run, which is why I had to rig a crit on him. Artur gets to D light. Strictly speaking, Artur only needs to hit B light by chapter 18, but I actually end up getting him to S light to show that certain strategies are possible in the late game. Natasha brought us a Mend staff, and we gave Moldred the staff because Mend gives more EXP and weapon EXP. The Myrmidon Seth baited over is the recruitable Joshua. Natasha will talk to him on this turn to recruit him. Seth visits the Armor Slayer village, and Natasha will then recruit Joshua, and we will rescue drop her backwards with Joshua and Garcia to ensure Natasha and the damaged Joshua aren't in range of the soldier, so he'll go for the damaged France. Joshua is a sword-locked infantry, but he can carry Eirika and has more bulk than Molder, which will allow him to do a certain job in chapter 8. Vanessa doesn't get to train much this chapter, since she has to cover the top 2 villages. Here, she gets a secret book. Probably ended up getting France a little too damaged, which will then require me to rig him to dodge on the next turn. We wanted Artur to not one-run this archer to get an extra round of chip EXP, since being reduced to low HP will cause him to move early in the movement order on the next turn. Eirika finally reaches the Dragon Shield village over there. Joshua gives Mulder a men target, and Natasha can heal him in turn so he doesn't need to dodge the soldier. If the brigands had rolled up too much bulk, Garcia could help chip the left brigand down for loot, but we don't need that. France needed the boss to be rolled down on defense in order to actually 2-round him with the strength level up that he's going to get on enemy face. Seth has some time to visit the arena. I have him fight an enemy one level lower than him, which is what maximizes his EXP due to the mode coefficient. This was originally pointed out by Zachary Brown 3010 in the comments of an older version of the Ephraim route LTC. Thanks a lot for that. Seth uses swords a fair bit early on, which is why he uses them for this arena since they are the weapon that he has the highest weapon rank in. Vanessa gets the torch item, which we will use exactly once in the run. Garcia could have visited the vendor in this clear, but there's nothing there that we can't get from the map shop. Vanessa cantos behind the fighter to ensure the other one will go for France, though his low HP probably would already convince him. Lute being brought to low HP earlier is annoying, but at least she has the avoid from the forest. France pulled some pretty bad hit rates on this turn due to weapon triangle and the forest. Vanessa equipped a slim lance in order to crit this fighter to death. That'll be chapter 5 in 3 turns. Time to meet the second lord. Chapter 5x is from the other lord Ephraim's point of view. We start by doing a short suspend ring to make the map more conducive to farming EXP. We have 4 new units. Ephraim is the second lord and he has some pretty decent base stats, and he has a good PRF Regent Leaf that, like the rapier, deals effective damage to armors and cavalry. The 2 cavaliers are Ford and Kyle. Their stats are obviously much worse than France's at this point, but we want to promote an extra cavalier for chapter 14 of both routes. Ford has a higher base level and has 16-8 to Kyle's 15-8. Previously, it was believed that this was important as this allows Ford to carry a certain unit, but as this LTC will show, the 8 difference between them doesn't really matter, so you could probably afford to train Kyle instead. I trained Ford because the nature of this map is more conducive to training him. We get Ford intentionally damaged on turn 1 before having Arson and Kyle rescue drop him forward. Arson is a temporary unit who leaves after this chapter and as such is an EXP thief, while Kyle will just do filler cavalry things for his time with our army. We then have Ephraim clear the way and Arson chips the Merc down for enemy phase. Kyle and Ford will then rescue drop Arson forward, which gets him 2 squares ahead of where he could naturally reach in 2 turns. I have Arson equip a steel lance to intentionally not kill the cavalier who's going to attack him on enemy phase. Ford will then clear the way. He's been reduced to such low HP that the archer is going to target him despite his ability to counter. And we want Ford to crit that archer because he will not have time to engage him on enemy phase again on the later turns. We had to do the long rake for the sake of Ford's crit, and also because Ephraim comes under some fire on this turn. I don't think he strictly has hard stat benchmarks, but given he is the Lord of a route, and the EXP that he farms is not contested by any other significant units, we do put some effort in to training him in this chapter. Ford kills this fighter to clear the way from that spot, since it will allow him to bait over a cavalier who is off to the right side. Austin has equipped the Iron Sword in order to not one-shot this fighter who goes for him. With the Steel Sword, Ford doubled that Cavalier, bringing him to low HP, which will help Ford enemy face him on this turn. Not killing the fighter sets up a kill for Ford. And it is only this many turns into the map that Kyle gets his first kill. Since Kyle and Ford do not strictly need to maximize their EXP, they are good fodder for turn 1 staff targets with well-timed level ups. In fact, we explicitly want Kyle to stay underleveled for a certain purpose that you will see in Chapter 9 Ephraim route. And a very similar job will be done by Garcia in Chapter 13 Eirika route, which is also why we are careful to not let him level up at all. We had to rake for this enemy phase for Ford and Ephraim's survival. This mage drops a chest key, and so does the fighter in the treasure room. On the final turn, we clean up. Ford will kill the fighter through the wall to grab his chest key, and ends at 9.90. Kyle needs a 1% crit to kill one of the enemies. We made sure to trade away Arson's inventory over the course of the whole map. Ephraim will cease to complete Chapter 5x in 6 turns. Chapter 6 sees us go back to Eirika for a Fog of War kill boss. Staff users love Fog of War maps because they allow them to use the Torch Staff, which grants 5 weapon EXP per use. We also will buy a Steel Lance for later. They give double weapon EXP, and we will have our Lance units use them as much as possible if they don't need 1-2 range. In particular, Vanessa wants to hit A Lances by Chapter 15 of Eirika route, and Franz would like to hit S Lances by the end of Chapter 14 of Eirika route. We can also buy tomes, and as previously mentioned, we want to break Artur's first lightning tome on this map. The boss of Chapter 6 is on the right side past rough terrain, so Vanessa is the fastest in getting close to him. She's still a square shot, which is why we want to drop somebody else who can kill the boss at 2 range, which will be Seth. Since Lute is too weak, and Artur and Franz have other more EXP rich plans for this map. Something interesting about the torch item is that while the vision it grants normally decays each turn, this does not happen if the unit is in saddlebags. We take advantage of this by having Eirika use the torch and having Joshua rescue her. Alternatively, you could have Lute use the torch and have Eirika rescue her. We want to do things this way because if a unit actually moved a square further, they would be in range of a cavalier who we want to attack Artur. Natasha and Mulder are free to spam torch on this map, though we do have them help expose certain enemies. Seth and Vanessa will rescue drop Artur across the mountain so he can farm EXP over there, and Garcia will pick up Seth to give him to Vanessa next turn. With a 6 move, Combe can visit the village to the south for the antitoxin, and Franz will cover the southern enemies to complete his training arc. The Halberd Fighter is the first enemy to attack Artur, and we want him to get damage to get the Cavaliers to attack him over Vanessa. The set of 3 enemies that Franz kills on this turn will get him to level 10, but we still have a whole extra turn with so many EXP bags just sitting right there in front of us. We want Archer to be reduced to low HP on this enemy phase by the time the Archer moves, so that the Archer will see a kill on him when it comes to his turn to move. Archer must get a crit to kill this Ironblade Cavalier, and because of his Stone's durability, we want him to get the crit specifically on the second hit. We want Archer's Lightning to go down to 1 use before this Javelin Soldier attacks him, so he breaks it on him. If Archer chipped him to critical HP, he probably would want to go to a fort due to heal AI, so we want to hit him exactly once to get Archer the chip EXP that he needs, while still keeping the soldier aggressive for next turn. There's a Bale slowly making its way down to those green civilians, but we finish the map long before we even get to see it. On turn 2, Joshua drops Eirika, so with her retained visibility she can expose the Troubadour for Archer to kill. This does get us an elixir, but really we just wanted the EXP. Lucia gives Seth to Vanessa, making use of his ability to walk on mountains. This is why nobody else can do this job. Franz intentionally missing this 90 was not necessary. It was just in service of optimizing his lance rank. We did want to either kill or weaken that shaman to low HP because he's standing on a tile that a Javelin Knight would need to attack Franz, and normally the shaman moves after the knight, and Franz does need the EXP from killing the knight. Franz needs to crit this first armor since he's a little too weak, but afterwards it's smooth sailing for him. This Poison Axe fighter goes for Vanessa, and she needs a crit to actually kill him. Vanessa currently has a full inventory and an Iron Lance equipped, and she will use the Iron Blade drop from this mercenary who attacks her in order to switch to a Javelin to then kill the nearby mage. Franz will hit level 12 once the Javelin Knight attacks him, and that is as far as he will get before promotion. All but 2 of the enemies die in this clear, the Priest on screen and the Bale to the right. Seth will kill the boss to complete chapter 6 in 2 turns. Since we cleared the map fast enough to keep the civilians safe, we get the Orion's Bolt, which is just money because Nami is not an LTC unit. Chapter 7 is another seas map and is the last map before the two routes LTCs diverge. The seas point is across a river and some peaks, meaning we will want to have Vanessa carry Eirika to the seas point. There is also a stealable energy ring we want to grab. Everybody else will just focus on their training. We will not be able to visit the overworld between this chapter and the next. Artur levels up turn 1 off of the soldier. If he didn't, you could have him get damaged intentionally and rescue drop him backwards. This is so that Mulder can get his turn 1 mended. Artur will run through the right, and Lute will go north to handle a couple of enemies, with Natasha tagging along with Lute to keep her topped up. One of the nice things about being a lightweight unit is that they're very easy to carry around. Vanessa equips the Slim Lance and will fly right up into the enemy formation. The Slim Lance allows Vanessa to cleanly one-round the two soldiers who go for her. We want Artur to get hit by the soldier to give Mulder a staff target for next turn. And we also want Vanessa to be hit by the archer to go down to low HP for next turn. That's a 1% crit to weaken the mage to critical HP, which will make him move first in the movement order, and guarantees that he cannot attack Natasha. Artur positions himself over there to lure a mage from the north to attack him across a cliff, and he will start engaging the squad of enemies to the southeast. He walks across the river in order to bait the mage who has the energy ring to attack him from 2 range. Vanessa needs to crit the first mercenary who goes for her to kill him, but the ensuing level up ensures that she can cleanly kill the other one. Since the archers will see a kill on Vanessa, they will attack her rather than blocking Eirika's way. That's Artur making it to C rank light. Lucia will weaken this fighter for Lute to kill. And Colm steals the energy ring. There is one more enemy who's left down there, and I rigged Franz to miss a Steel Lance hit on him just for weapon EXP. With this skill, Artur hits level 11 without much room to spare, which is the payoff of all the effort we put into squeezing out extra chip EXP on him in the early game relative to older LTCs. Vanessa will kill the boss with a Slim Lance crit plus hit, and Eirika will cease to complete Chapter 7 in 3 turns. The brass drops a Night Crest for France.